Hello, I'm Greg Hartjes, Superintendent for the Appleton Area School District. Thank you for joining me for this 10th and final video on our operational referendum that we're going to on April 7th. In this video, I'm going to talk about our financial crisis plan, and that's the plan to cut $13 million from our budget next year if the referendum does not pass. Over the past 6 months, the Appleton Area School District's Board of Education and our administrative team have evaluated 2 fiscal scenarios. The first one is a financial stabilization plan if the referendum were to pass, and that is going to be us taking the $13 million structural deficit and being able to make sure that we can continue with the programs, the services, and the supports that we provide our students. And then there's an additional $2 million built into that plan that will go to support increases in social work time, school counselor time, some other support positions. Now, the second plan, the financial crisis plan, is if the referendum fails, and that's what I'm talking about in this video. Now, I want to review some background information around our financial crisis, and this has been shared in previous videos. The first area is the inflation rate has been much higher than our funding increases over the past 3 years. Now, actually, the inflation rate has been higher than our funding increases for the past 17 years, but for 14 of those 17 years, the inflation rate wasn't that much higher than our increase in funding. And so we were able to manage by making some cuts within our budget every year. But the last 3 years saw inflation rates of just under 5%, right at 8%, and then just over 4%. And our funding increases weren't even close to those numbers. Now, everybody is impacted by inflation, whether you are individually in your personal life, maybe you work in private sector. But what is different about public school districts is that our revenue, our funding, is controlled by the state legislature. So we can't just make decisions to increase our funding, our revenue sources. And also, when we look at possibly cutting some of our expenses, reducing expenses, all of our expenses go towards supporting the education of kids. So when we cut expenses, it means that we're negatively impacting the education of kids. So that's a little bit about inflation. The second area is special education reimbursement. The state law is such that the state is supposed to cover 2/3 of the cost for legally mandated expenses that we incur in educating students with disabilities. The reality is that the state has been less than 30% for many years, now is at 35% this year. But the reimbursement that we don't get has to be covered by our budget. So we would have had a balanced budget over the last 3 years if we had been reimbursed by the state at the state law level of 2/3, 67%. And then the third reason is that we are funded at a $2,000 less per student than the state average, which means in Appleton, we have $2,000 less every year to spend on each individual student than the average across the state. And that comes from 2 reasons. One is that funding limit was set in 1993 and was set different for all districts across the state based on what they were spending at that time. And then it is based on referendums. And we've passed 4 referendums over the past 33 years. Through all of that, it just means that we are significantly less in terms of our funding from the state to educate our students. So if any one of these 3 were not impacting us, we would have had a balanced budget. But with all 3 of these areas, it's created this financial crisis. Now, what's frustrating to us is that it's coming at a time when we're really seeing some great improvements in terms of our students' success. Our graduation rates are the highest they've been in over 15 years, and they are for all populations of students. We have more students taking advanced placement classes, more students taking advanced placement tests and passing those tests. Advanced placement are college-level courses. We have more dual enrollment and advanced standing courses, and these are for students that are going to most often go to Fox Valley Technical College. And then for students who are going into the workforce, we have more students using youth apprenticeships, much like internships over the past several years. So really excited about the improvements we're making at the high school. The middle level, we have a new model that we put into place when we moved 6th graders into our middle school last year, and it's really giving an opportunity for our middle school students to have more robust course options. And then at the elementary level, we've really focused on STEM and literacy. and great success in terms of our STEM classes that were added last year as well, paid for by our 2022 referendum. But then our elementary literacy success is really exciting for us because we recognize that our students weren't reading at the level we wanted them to. So 3 years ago, we started to plan for making changes in how we teach reading. We did that last year. So last year was the first year of this new reading model, more phonics-based, more science of reading based. And now this is our second year and we're seeing outstanding results. And that's really, it comes from having teachers, interventionists, and coaches who are able to work with our elementary students and finding that success. So anyway, a lot of improvement in our district that we're worried about whether we're going to be able to continue this trajectory if the referendum does not pass. Now, the development of this financial crisis plan, in doing so, we've taken input from our community through last November's referendum survey, where we had 8 areas that we would consider cutting. And unfortunately, to get to $13 million in cuts, we will have to impact all 8 of those areas. Also, our board developed, along with our leadership team, we developed priorities, and we had 25 priorities spread across levels 1, 2, and 3, meaning we would first look to cut at the level 3 priority. Again, $13 million is a significant dollar amount for us to look to cut, which means we have to impact both level 3, 2, and actually level 1 areas as well. And so really $13 million is quite challenging for us. And finally, we had administrative input. What came out of that is we have areas that we are looking to cut. It will start in operations because we want to start the furthest away from kids, right? We aren't looking at classrooms necessarily. We're starting as far away from students as possible. So operations and technology and library media services, we think we can cut $1.4 million. It's going to reduce the different systems that we have around tech services, some hardware. It will be some staffing, both in technology and library media services. Facilities and energy, looking to save $550,000 here. Now, we contracted with a company a few years ago, and it was a 5-year contract, and they promised us that they could help us save money on energy consumption. And after 3 years, they said, you know what, we've tried, you're already doing almost everything you can to impact your energy costs and to reduce your energy costs. So after 3 years, they actually asked us to get out of the contract because there's no more savings, they said. We're going to look and see if we can find $550,000 through facilities and then energy savings. And then this third area, capital projects, is we have $2.5 million every year budgeted. We have since 2014 to go towards capital projects. And that means we're going to spend it on roofs and boilers and windows and parking lots, and sometimes we can do lighting, sometimes we can maybe do a playground renovation or a library renovation. For the most part, what we're doing here is we're just keeping our old schools functional. As we've talked about in previous videos, we have schools that are over 100 years old. We have several schools that are over 60 years old, and most of our schools are over 50 years old. So $1 million would be cut from this budget, and that's some challenges because of the ongoing maintenance that our old schools need. And the next area, we're looking at personnel and professional support. We would look to cut $2.3 million from leadership and professional growth. And that would be a reduction in administrative positions of about $1 million. So that would be from our district level administrators. And I just put out a video recently where I talked about the fact that we already are 36% below the state average in terms of spending on administrators. Obviously, this would impact that as well. Professional development, looking at how we provide professional development for all of our staff, some teacher leadership positions, and then instructional coaches we would look to save. Support staff and substitutes, so $1.6 million reduction in support staff. These are going to be paraprofessionals. We have paraprofessionals that support students in classrooms. We have them that they work lunch hour, they work in recess, they support us in libraries where we don't have full-time LMC library specialists. And then we'd look at all other different support positions. Again, like I said, outside of the classroom, those other positions that support learning, but not directly impacting face-to-face involvement with students. And then substitute coverage. This is something that came out of the pandemic where we place a sub at a school full-time, knowing that every day there's going to be absences that they can fill. If their school doesn't need that sub, they go to a different school and fill subs. And it's really helped us to have less unfilled subs during the day. And the next one is stipends, $400,000 cut in staff pay for additional work. We have just a system for when a teacher attends an IEP, that's a planning meeting for students with special education needs. They do get a small stipend for doing that. Okay, in the final area, this is where we're starting to get closer to students, and it would be direct instructional and student impact. First area, we would look to save $2.5 million as staffing and increases in class sizes. Basically what that would mean is in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we would increase class sizes. Right now we average 25 students in 3rd grade, and in 4th and 5th grade we average 27. Middle and high school, we would do the same thing. We would increase class sizes. Right now we average 29 at middle and high school, and we would go over 30 at those schools. But then it also is looking at restricting the number of courses that students can take, looking at our different structures to our model at middle and high school. And like I talked about, the success we've had in moving 6th graders, we'll keep 6th graders at the middle level, but we may not be able to provide all the courses we currently are providing. Specialized programming, we look to cut $800,000 from our pull-out models for elementary specials such as band, strings, and tag. And so right now we start band and strings in 4th grade, and we would look to either start in 5th grade, or maybe we'd have to wait until 6th grade. Curriculum and instruction, $750,000, be reductions in instructional materials, equipment, and technology. Currently, we have one-to-one devices for students in 5th grade through 12th grade. So a student gets a Chromebook in 5th grade, and they keep that for 4 years through 8th grade. We would look at moving that to 6th grade, or perhaps even 7th grade when they first get that one-to-one device. And then co-curriculars, and this will include reductions in athletics, academic activities such as debate, forensics, mock trial, all of our clubs, theater, and then other after-school activities that we have. This is a budgeted amount of about $2.8 million. So out of our $300 million budget, we spend less than 1%, $2.8 million on co-curriculars. We think this is a bargain for what kids learn in terms of life skills coming out of co-curriculars, but we would look to cut $700,000, which is 25% of that budget, spread across elementary, middle, and high school. Now, our next steps, should the referendum fail, the financial crisis plan would be further discussed and ultimately approved by the Board of Education. And the reduction areas that I listed, I just talked about in the plan, they may change, as may the reduction dollars in each area, but we just wanted to make sure that if it happens that we do not pass this referendum, we wanted to make sure that we could cut $13 million from our budget. As you can see, we can do it, significant impact to students and their learning. And that's in preparation for our April 7th, 2026 referendum. Thanks for joining me.